Hey guys, what's up and welcome to a new Tesla update video. So today we're going to be going over the market. The market hasn't closed yet. There's about half an hour left before it actually closes. I'm recording this video a little bit early because after the bell, we have Apple and Amazon reporting earnings. And obviously, as I'm sure you can guess, that's pretty important because, I heard they're, pretty big companies. So yeah, I think I want to be paying attention to that. Nonetheless, though, we're going to go over the market, right? So Tesla pretty much going to be ending the day, I would guess. I think it might drop towards the end of the day a little bit, but pretty much about 2% up. Right? Oops, did I miss something? No, pretty much about 2% up, which is probably going to end us around like that kind of high 830s to, around 840-ish level. So let's go over it. Let's see what happened, So clearly, as I thought, the bull flag that I thought was forming, well, it just barely started. I mean, this was like a very early projection. But I personally thought that maybe, it would make a lot of sense if we kind of fill out this bull flag, fill the gap. It kind of makes sense. But as usual, this market is not a market where it wants to follow logic a lot of the time, because, well, as you can see today, we're obviously up, right? And we're up above this potential bear flag. Now, again, this bear flag is still extremely rough, a drawing that I had. I would still not put too much weight into it, but nonetheless, it's still looking pretty decent regardless. You can see it did come down here, it did bounce off both of these lines, the red one and the blue one together. So clearly, this was a pretty, important area regardless. But the fact that Tesla came down, bounced off, and is ending above it is actually not that bad. So it does change my projection just a little bit. But let's go over that. So what does this really mean? Now, first and foremost, I want to make this very clear. As I've said, I personally believe that the majority of August, at least the first half of August, will be overall net bullish, short-term bullish, net bullish, just for about the first half to maybe 2/3-ish of August, right? I've been saying that for quite a while now. This is happening a lot faster than I expected, which makes me a little suspicious in a way. Like, it is, a good move, and you kind of want to follow the trend, right? In this case, the trend does seem to be up for the short term, if you will. Again, the majority of August-ish. But the fact that we had a negative GDP today, or I guess this morning, and this was the second quarter in a row, consecutive negative GDP, which is a technical recession, and the market's roaring off of that. Kind of makes you think a little bit, right? Makes you kind of wonder, makes you kind of, it's like, okay, well, that's interesting, right? So that's why I'm taking this a little bit, with a grain of a caution, if you will. I'm being a little bit careful. I'm not going to, FOMO in or like, oh my God, I missed the rally. I still personally believe, regardless, after this rally, once this market, is done essentially doing what it's doing, I still personally believe that we're going to have a significant fall during fall. Actually, the season falls, so kind of funny that it goes like that. But nonetheless, I did show you guys that chart. If you haven't seen it from last week, I think I showed it on either Thursday's or Friday's video, the chart that shows when you have a second year Democratic president, and how the stocks tend to move, and seasonality for the months. And so far it's following the projection quite well, and it states that the majority of August is going to be bullish, and then starting late August, very early September is when the massive decline begins for pretty much all of fall. And that's kind of what I'm expecting here as well. So especially with Tesla kind of pumping like this. Now, I definitely want to see how the market closes. I haven't made any trades. I did have that one spy put yesterday. Thankfully, I exited this morning, made, again, very small profit, but hey, I'm glad I exited because I definitely would have been underwater right now quite a bit. So I'm glad I exited that. Again, even though the profit was essentially non-existent, still profit, but very, 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 very little profit. But nonetheless, whatever. The point is the fact that, I would be careful with this, guys. I would be careful, again, even though I do think the trend is still going to be overall up. I wouldn't, not financial advice, not, do your own research, due diligence, whatever. I wouldn't go like too crazy about it, or like, I wouldn't get too blinded. Now, the one thing I will point out, so by the way, actually, the one thing I also said on top of this bull flag, which clearly is not happening, but it did show that this was a very important area, is a potential RSI bearish divergence. What does that mean? I did say this, I think yesterday even too. If Tesla comes up to this 840-ish level, or especially goes higher, which it did, and the RSI doesn't at the very very least, come up to where this was, I think minimum, it's pretty close. It is pretty close, but it is, you can see here, like if you make it bigger, it is lower, right? It is slightly lower. That's not good because the stock just made a higher high, while the RSI is technically at the moment at least making a high or a lower high. That is setting up a bearish divergence, which is something you want to be careful. Now, because this is on the daily, aka a much longer time frame as opposed to, like, let's say the 1 hour, 30-minute, 15-minute time frame on the chart up here, right? Like, this or this. Because this is a longer time frame, what this usually means, again, as far as I know, or at least as far as I understand personally, is that it's setting up a bearish divergence, which means that not just, suddenly next week we're just going to plummet down, we'll never see these levels ever again, whatever, it's all over, blah, 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 blah. No, not at all. What this means is that coming up, it's almost like a forewarning, it's almost like as if you were to ask a psychic of your future, if you will. This is a leading indicator is what it is, because it's to me telling me that the stock is starting to lose a little bit of momentum. That doesn't mean the momentum is gone, and it doesn't mean we can't still go up, but this is starting to be like, caution sign, if you will, like the first caution sign. And as long as we keep setting up these divergences like this, so for instance, if let's say we start kind of retracing a little bit, maybe come back down again to like, let's say low 800s, and then go back up even higher, and then the RSI makes a lower low and a lower high. So let's say, as an example, just a really rough example, just so you understand what I mean. So let's say from here we retrace a bit, and let's say we go like this, and then let's say we go like this, right? And let's say during this move, the RSI down here does this, right? Well, ignore the last line, that is true. But let's say that the RSI does like this. That right there is a bearish divergence. And if this starts happening, that's when I would really start being a little bit more careful. So that's just something to consider. Again, take it as you will. You can ignore it entirely if you want, but that's just something to, sort of consider. Taking a very quick look at the main indicators, you can see Tesla is looking extremely bullish. The fact that it's still hovering the green line on the Bollinger Band, I personally don't like. Again, it's extremely common for it to hover the lines and then eventually revert back to the mean, which of course is the white line. So this is why I'm also being extra cautious here, because I still personally believe that we need some kind of drawback, even if it's a little bit of a drawback. It doesn't have to be exactly to the white line, but a little bit more in my opinion. But we'll see what happens with that. But again, when it's pretty much hovering the green line like this for like this consecutively, I'm cautious. I'm cautious. I'm not going to be, just all-inning right now to the moon. None of that bullshit. Just be careful, in my opinion. Make your own decisions, not financial advice, blah, blah, blah. Still above the 50 moving average, starting to slowly approach the 200, but we'll talk about that when it matters more. Above the 10 and most likely above the 5 still. So the chart is still looking overall short-term bullish, but again, seeing something like this form is telling me that, down the road, again, probably somewhere maybe late August, this I think will really start to play out, and that's when we're really going to start seeing some potential pain. So that's just something to consider. Going on a slightly shorter time frame, you can see as the stock is on the 1 hour making essentially potentially, it's arguably a higher high over here because it did go higher than this, even though it got plummeted pretty fast. The RSI also making a lower high, right? So, there's a bunch of bearish divergences setting up, which is something that I'm just being extremely cautious about. I'm just kind of, I'm not going to FOMO. I'm not, I'm not being, like, oh my God, I missed something. I missed the rally. Oh my God, it's all over. Just patience. This is a market of patience, a market of not FOMOing, at least, from what I understand, from what I'm doing. And it's been working pretty well for me so far. I'm not making as much profit as I would like to be, but I'm not losing money. That's the most important part. So that's kind of what I would consider there, guys. It's extremely important. Another thing you can potentially argue here is the fact that we have a potential double top-ish, right? You can see ultimately on the 1 hour how we came from these lows over here, came up, rejected, came up pretty much at the exact same level, and we're getting like insane resistance around this 840 to 850 level, like massive resistance, to the point where I'm probably going to actually draw an extra line here, because this is becoming quite important of a resistance level right here, right? So I want to put a line there, kind of keep watch on that. But yeah, this is something to consider, guys. So we're making a potential double top. If you're not sure what a double top is, by whatever means, I'll show you guys right here what a double top is. Right, so double top and double bottom. Double bottom is a bullish pattern, double top is a bearish pattern. So here's a decent example of what it looks like, right? You have a double top where it essentially creates pretty much, think of it, the easiest way to think about it is an M shape. A double bottom is a W, a double top is an M shape, right? Which shows a double resistance, and that's a pretty bearish indicator. But the only way it really plays out is if it falls underneath this part right here, which is around 772. So essentially think of it this way. If we ever lose this kind of, 770 to like 760 area. If this area ever really fails and we ever fall below that, this double top will play out, and that's extremely bearish. If we don't fall below 770 to 760, then Tesla's still looking fine. Think of it that way, right? That's the easiest way to think about it, specifically for this pattern. Another way to think about it for this pattern to fall apart, for the bulls at least, in favor of the bulls, is if Tesla essentially gets above this pretty much like, to make it extremely simple, 850. If we can get above 850 and start getting candles closing above 850, at least on the 1 hour minimum, several of them ideally, that's another good sign where, potentially that, it's the pattern has failed and the bulls have succeeded. You can see on the 4-hour, there's also a bearish divergence setting up. The RSI is sitting over here when we went up to this level. Now we went up even higher. It's setting lower. There's pretty much a bearish divergence on every single time frame almost. So just something to keep in mind, guys. Very, very careful. Be very cautious. I know everyone's going to be like, but Tesla fundamentals, we have the stock split coming up and all the bad news is out of the way. Guys, I want you to fully understand, I'm a huge Tesla bull. I love the company. I legitimately adore it, right? I have posters of Tesla in my, condo and everything. I have a Model 3 myself. Like I absolutely adore the company, but people need to stop getting blinded by just that. Like you can't let your biasness blind you, right? Back when Tesla was over here, I'm sure people were saying the same thing. Back when Tesla was over here, everyone was like, Tesla's the fundamentals, man, there's no bad news. What could possibly happen? Well, this could possibly happen. So every time I see people commenting that, there's no way it'll drop this low. What are you smoking, man? You must be high. What kind of, crack did you smoke before we made this video? Every time I see those comments, I get more and more bearish. Let's just say that, because when I see those kind of comments, that tells me that, yeah, you know what, the retail people, I'm retail myself, but people that are just simply oblivious and let the emotions take control are just not looking at just straight, facts almost, if you will, right? So just something to consider. Again, take it as you will. I could be completely wrong, of course, as usual. But again, back here, people were saying the same thing, and we know what happened. Let's just say that. So take it as you will, guys, but that's kind of what I'm seeing at the moment. Still expecting a pullback relatively soon, and then off that pullback, based on how far down it goes, if it's a healthy pullback, which I think it will be, based on how far down it goes, I will be looking to sell puts probably to around mid to late August and take a bullish position. And then from there, I'm gonna reassess the situation once we get to that part, mid to late August, and go from there. But other than that, that is what I'm seeing. Let me know what you guys think down below, and I'll see you for the next one. Peace.